Today we will be looking at 3 horrifying caving stories that went horribly wrong. All 3 of them are heartbreaking and have one thing in common: how assumptions and abandonment in the depths of the earth can lead to disturbing tragic ends. As always, viewer discretion is advised. Nestled in the rugged wilderness of Mexico, Sotano del Aire, a stunning vertical cave, is a siren call to thrill seekers. Its 764-foot descent is both a spectacle and a challenge. But on August 22, 1999, this natural wonder became the stage for an unimaginable tragedy. Christy Quintana, 26-year-old passionate caver, joined her fellow spelunkers Miguel Angel Blanco, Rocio Medina, Cuauhtemoc Sanchez, Sergio Sanchez Armas, and Alfredo Silva for what should have been an exhilarating expedition. The day began with promise. After a grueling 2-hour hike through rugged terrain, the group reached the cave in mid-afternoon. As they were at the pit's entrance, they noticed it was surrounded by loose rocks. Assuming this could later be a hindrance, they carefully cleared debris around the lip and then rigged a rope to start their daunting vertical descent. Miguel, Christy, Medina, and Sanchez prepared were the ones who volunteered to explore the cave, while Silva and Sergio stayed at the surface to monitor and assist as needed. The descent was smooth at first. One by one, they entered the world beneath us, scattered with jagged rocks. They explored, took notes, and shared the excitement of the journey, none aware of what was about to happen. As night fell, the group prepared for the climb back to the surface. Christy and Miguel went first. Everything went perfectly as planned, right up until the clock hit 10:30 p.m. As Christy climbed to about 130 feet below the surface and Miguel positioned himself 50 feet lower, disaster struck. A section of the cave's lip suddenly gave way. Tons of rock broke loose, crashing down the vertical shaft. The sound was deafening, a thunderous roar of falling stone reverberating through the cave. Christy, helplessly suspended on the rope, took the brunt of the collapse. Massive rocks struck her head, shoulders, and back, fracturing her cervical and lumbar vertebrae and rendering her legs paralyzed. Below her, Miguel was spared by sheer luck. Somehow his position kept him just out of the trajectory of any falling big rock. At the cave's bottom, Medina and Sanchez froze, horrified as the thunderous collapse shook the walls around them, giant chunks of rock falling and blocking their exit. The aftermath was chaos. Dust and debris filled the air, making it difficult to see or breathe. Miguel, after regaining his composure, climbed up to Christy. Her injuries were severe. She was conscious but in immense pain, her body trembling with shock. What he found was devastating. Her legs were lifeless, her body battered by the merciless impact of the rocks. Miguel did everything he could, offering comfort, stabilizing her position on the rope, speaking softly to calm her, though her suffering was evident in every strained breath. Medina and Sanchez, stuck at the bottom, knew something had gone horribly wrong. Moments later, Miguel's voice broke the tension. He briefly updated them on the situation and instructed them to stay put and wait, as he was focused on stabilizing her and figuring out the next steps. With no way to ascend or assist, they had no choice but to wait. Miguel knew the only hope was to climb to the surface and organize a rescue. Carefully passing Christy on the rope, he ascended through the unstable terrain, reaching the surface around 11:30 p.m. Silva and Sergio, horrified by the news, took a few moments to get themselves together. The team members acted quickly, rigging a makeshift haul system with the limited equipment they had. It was a race against the clock, but their tools were inadequate. Without proper pulleys or mechanical assistance, their progress was excruciatingly slow. To make matters worse, the loose rocks at the lip of the cave had to be stabilized before any attempt to pull Christy to safety. The team worked in a desperate state, knowing that every minute counted. By 2:30 a.m., they managed to lift Christy to within 12 feet of the surface. Miguel rappelled back down to assist in pulling her over the edge, but when he reached her, panic surged through his body. She was not breathing. Christy had succumbed to her injuries. Suspended on the rope for hours, she likely suffered from a combination of internal injuries, shock, and harness-induced pathology, a condition that restricts circulation and accelerates fatal outcomes in a mobile spelunker. Miguel, devastated but determined, tried to bring her body over the lip. The group's physical exhaustion and the precarious conditions made it impossible. With Christie's body still suspended, Sergio made the difficult decision to hike back to their vehicle and summon help. It was a grueling 2-hour journey through the dark, but by morning, a rescue team arrived. Meanwhile, Medina and Sanchez remained trapped at the bottom of the pit, isolated and without resources. By 11 a.m., they started the operation. Their first task was to remove the remaining loose rocks threatening to destabilize the site further. The rescue team secured Christie's body to the rope and gradually lifted her through the remaining 12 feet of constricted terrain to the surface. The process was slow and methodical, as they needed to minimize additional strain on the rope and ensure the stability of the rocks near the lip. Meanwhile, Medina and Sanchez remained trapped at the bottom of the pit, stranded in darkness and uncertainty for over 16 hours. Their isolation was compounded by hunger, thirst, and the psychological toll of the unfolding disaster above them. By 2 p.m., they descended to the constriction 180 feet down, where unstable rocks from the collapse had lodged. After clearing the path, they reached Medina and Sanchez, providing food, water, and reassurance. At 5 p.m., Medina and Sanchez finally emerged from the cave, exhausted but alive. However, devastated by the crushing reality that their friend had not survived. For the surviving cavers, the memory of that night would haunt them for life. Could anything have saved her? The rescue report suggests that even immediate action may not have been enough. Lowering her to the bottom of the pit might have provided temporary relief, but her injuries were severe and likely unsurvivable without advanced medical care that was hours away in the remote wilderness. This next story is far more disturbing than the previous one. The horrific end will leave you asking questions. Deep in the Arizona wilderness, the sun cast long shadows over the jagged terrain, hinting at the hidden worlds below. Red Man Cave, a labyrinth of twisting passages and narrow crevices, had long drawn adventurers with its promise of discovery. But on February 25, 1999, the cave would become the site of an unimaginable tragedy, a haunting reminder of nature's unforgiving grip. Aaron Standage, 25, was no stranger to adventure. Confident, driven, and eager to push boundaries, he often sought the thrill of the unknown. That day, he and his companion, William Farron, ventured into Redman Cave with only the barest of gear, a decision born of confidence, or perhaps hubris, that would prove devastating. They carried only minimal gear, headlamps, and basic caving equipment, inadequate for what lay ahead. The pair navigated 250 feet of confusing, confined passages before reaching a sharp descent to a flooded lower level. The sound of dripping water echoed like a slow, ticking clock. Peering into the dark, murky water ahead, they spotted a small opening, just 3 feet wide, leading to an uncharted passage. While the opening promised access to more of the cave, however, it demanded they submerge themselves completely in the frigid, dark water. "This has to be it," Aaron said, his voice tinged with excitement. But Farron hesitated, studying the inky void. "We don't have gear for this, Aaron. It's too dangerous." Aaron flashed a grin. "Just a short swim, 10 feet, maybe less. We can handle it." The thrill of exploration outweighed caution. They took a deep breath and plunged into the frigid water. The first few seconds were disorienting. The narrow tunnel pressed in on them, the cold biting at their skin. Visibility was almost non-existent. Their headlamps barely penetrated the murky water. Aaron led the way, his arms pushing him forward as he maneuvered through the tight passage. Farron followed close behind, his chest tightening as the passage narrowed even further. After 10 feet, the pair surfaced in a tiny air pocket, no more than 6 inches of space between the water and the ceiling. Their breathing was heavy, the air damp and stale. "This is insane," Farron muttered. Aaron laughed, though it carried a nervous edge, but insisted on going further. However, Fern was hesitant. He felt that their adventure was turning into a deadly game. He warned Aaron that venturing further will be no less than a stupid decision, and they should head back. However, Aaron was eager to explore further. Farron shook his head and decided to go back, expecting his friend to follow him. Aaron frowned but nodded. He went on, saying that he'll catch up in a while. Farron dove back into the passage, retracing his route. The journey back felt endless, the oppressive weight of the water above him fueling his anxiety. When he finally surfaced in the main passage, relief washed over him like a wave. He waited, staring at the dark pool, expecting Aaron to emerge any moment. Minutes passed, then more. The still water betrayed no sign of movement, no ripples of his companion's return. Panic surged through Farron. He sprinted through the cave. He had no choice. He had to get help. Outside the cave, Farron flagged down a local hiker who helped him contact emergency services. Within an hour, rescue teams, led by Adam Shepard, a seasoned diver with the sheriff's department, arrived at Redmond Cave. The team worked swiftly, setting up lights and preparing dive gear. Farron, pale and shaking, explained what had happened. Adam entered the water. The murky passage closed around him like a vice, the jagged walls threatening to catch on his equipment. As he moved deeper, just like before, visibility dwindled further. His light reflected off suspended particles, creating a ghostly haze. 12 feet into the flooded passage, Adam spotted something that made his stomach drop, a flash of fabric wedged in a narrow crevice. Upon closer inspection, he realized it was Aaron's clothing he spotted. But it wasn't just the fabric. It was Aaron. Adam's heart sank. Aaron's body was contorted, trapped in the unyielding grip of the cave. He was wedged tightly, and it was evident that as he tried desperately to escape, he became out of breath and eventually drowning underneath the earth. Carefully, Adam worked to free the body, his hands steady despite the gravity of the moment. The crevice had claimed Aaron's last breath, and now it seemed reluctant to let him go. Minutes felt like hours, but finally, Adam managed to pull him loose. Above ground, Farron paced as the rescue team emerged from the cave, carrying Aaron. At first, he was relieved after seeing his friend. He thought he must have been knocked out from the ordeal. Little did he know that although it was indeed his friend Aaron, however, it was a lifeless shell of his former self. The sight was unbearable. His friend, so full of life and eager for adventure just hours ago, was now a silent, pale shadow. The rescue team loaded Aaron onto a stretcher. Adam, his face etched with exhaustion, spoke softly to Farron. He got turned around in the water, lost his way, and got stuck. By the time he found the crevice, he was already out of air. Farron collapsed to his knees, tears streaming down his face. Guilt and grief overwhelmed him, the weight of his decision to leave Aaron behind crushing him. He couldn't shake off the what-ifs. What if he had stayed? What if they had turned back together? But the real question is, which decision actually proved fatal? Was it Aaron's decision to venture further alone knowing the risks? Or Farron's choice to leave him behind and let him play with his life? The last story is a sheer result of neglecting the most important rule of caving, and that is to stay calm no matter what the circumstances. Peacock Springs, Florida, is both a diver's dream and a test of their discipline and preparedness. Its underwater tunnels attract adventurers, but they demand respect for their complexity and danger. For Patricia Barkley, 67, and her longtime dive partner, this dive was meant to be routine, a weekly ritual they had upheld for 4 years. Both were introductory-level cave divers, competent but far from experts in navigating the complex, silty tunnels of the spring system. Their plan was simple: follow the main line, transition through the crossover tunnel, and explore the peanut line. But beneath the surface, even small missteps can lead to devastating consequences. The dive began smoothly, with the pair moving in sync along the guideline that snaked through the dark underwater caverns. Guidelines are vital tools in navigating the dark and winding caves, assisting cave divers. Using the main line, they arrived at the crossover tunnel. The crossover tunnel in the Peacock Springs cave system is a passage that connects two main sections of the cave's guideline network: the main line and the peanut line. It serves as a critical junction for divers navigating through the system. Navigating through that, they finally reached the peanut line, beyond which the tunnels narrowed and twisted. However, they had failed to bring jump reels, small but critical devices used to bridge gaps in the guideline. Without them, they were effectively navigating blind between sections, relying on memory and orientation alone. The pair pushed forward, their air supplies depleting steadily. Barkley began to feel uneasy as the passage grew more constricted. Around 800 feet into the peanut line, doubt crept into her mind. Her breathing quickened as she scanned her surroundings, convinced they had taken a wrong turn. Suddenly, Barkley made a fateful decision. Ignoring her buddy, she bolted back toward the crossover tunnel. This abrupt movement not only stirred up the fine silt on the cave floor, but also broke the cardinal rule of cave diving: always remain calm and stick to the plan. Her buddy, leading at the time, noticed her erratic behavior and quickly swam after her. Catching up, he pointed to the line arrows, small markers indicating the direction of the exit, and tried to signal her to stop. Barkley, gripped by panic, ignored him entirely and continued to swim deeper into the cave system. The lack of a continuous guideline compounded her confusion. Without jump reels, Barkley missed the tunnel that would have led her out. Instead, she swam back into the labyrinth, burning through her air supply in a desperate search for an exit. Realizing he couldn't keep up, Barkley's buddy made the difficult choice to return to the main line, assuming she would eventually circle back. He swam to the pothole and waited for her, his air supply dropping to critical levels. Minutes turned to what felt like hours. Barkley never appeared. With his tanks nearing depletion, the buddy swam to the basin and surfaced. There, he encountered Larry Green, an experienced cave diver teaching a class. Gasping for air, the buddy explained the situation. Both divers discussed their options. The grim reality set in. Barkley's panic, compounded by their lack of proper navigation equipment, had likely led her into an untenable situation. Without hesitation, Larry Green volunteered to dive back in to search for Barkley. Equipped with his years of experience, he retraced the pair's route, carefully navigating through the silt-clouded peanut line. Around 800 feet in, he found her. Barkley's body was suspended in the water, her mask still on and dry, but her regulator had fallen from her mouth. Her tanks were completely empty. The scene told a grim story. Disoriented and terrified, she had likely exhausted her air supply while searching for a non-existent exit. Green returned to the surface with the somber news of Barkley's unfortunate outcome. Her friend was left to grapple with the weight of what had transpired. Barkley had panicked, a diver's worst enemy, and her lack of training and preparation only deepened the tragedy. The analysis of the tragedy pointed to several crucial mistakes. First, Barkley and her buddy lacked the training required for this type of dive. Cave diving demands advanced skills, including managing stress, understanding gas consumption, and navigating with precision. Second, they failed to carry jump reels, leaving significant gaps in the guideline. Without these connections, Barkley became disoriented, missing the exit tunnel entirely. Additionally, gas management was poorly executed. Cave divers follow the rule of thirds: 1/3 of the air supply for entry, 1/3 for exit, and 1/3 as a reserve. Barkley likely violated this rule when she turned back, using up valuable air in her frantic search for an exit.